Hey everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm joined by Shawn, who is a front-end chapter lead at Belong in Melbourne. Firstly, before we get into today's questions and dive deep into Shawn's experience as a leader, I'll get our guest to introduce himself. Shawn, I'll pass it to you.
Hi, thanks, Matt. I'm Shawn. I'm a front-end chapter lead at Belong. That means I look after a lot of the front-end practices, process, and people. Helps with the front-end strategy and work alongside my product leaders to get that executed as part of the delivery and make our customers happy.
What's the one piece of career advice you wish someone had given you when you were starting out?
Yeah, great. This is a really good question because I've had a bit of a think of this previously. One thing that I think is quite important early on in my career is like the emphasis on working on my softer skills, right? So very early on in my career, I've been really focused on hard skills, and anything that distracts me away from that, it's like taking it away. In my mind, it would be taking me away from real work. What I hadn't realized is like I'm here to solve a problem, and for me, it's like how do you bring product engineering and delivery together? And quite often of that is actually those softer skills. Are you able to bring people together to solve a problem? And rally troops around, right? So a lot of that is communication and being able to influence that. So that's more than just coding. And I think if you look at the way today's world is going, that is more and more important, right? So you look at the adoption of smarter tools like the AI and things like this. It makes that emphasis on what do you bring as a human to your engineering teams, right? So I think that's one bit of advice I would say on. Look for those opportunities for you to kind of lead and bring people together early on in your career. I think another point that's come up to me is like you want to get a holistic picture of how engineering is set up. I think it's important while you're early on in your career is just to get a bit of sprinkle of everything, kind of like a buffet. Try a bit of back end, a bit of front end, DevOps. Get an idea of how all these pictures fit together. And then later on in your career, you could look at specializing in one way or the other. And that for me, like I've really liked the fast-pacedness of front-end development that's constantly changing, but it also is really close to the customer, and that really drew me to that aspect of things, right? So another bit of advice is just get that broader picture, and then get that base from an engineering point of view, narrow in to where you'd like to focus on. And then if you want looking at leadership opportunities future on, it's like how does the work I do tie into the business goals, customers? I think it's very important to look at what the problem you're solving is, like how does it impact the customer? Does it actually solve the customer need, or is it just something that you want to move the needle on personally, right? So it's sometimes a bit, that line kind of gets gray. So I think those are the two call outs from my side. If I'd want to give a bit of advice to somebody is hone in your soft skills. There's always place for us to improve on that, and it makes a big impact on how people work. And then look at how you balance your broadness versus your specificity as you want to shape your career.
Can you share a pivotal moment in your career journey that made a significant impact?
There are a few actually. So just reflecting on this, it seems to be there are a few pivotal moments that here and there, but I think it's a series of small decisions that shape the trajectory, I feel, to a degree. So one of the things that I've been very mindful of is the jobs I've picked to help shape. One of the criteria is I want to find places where I can learn from other smart engineers and also have good kind of a structure and how we work, how engineering culture. I think that really, especially earlier on, had a big influence on me. For example, for me, I was quite fortunate working with Xero quite early on, where they're very customer focused and they're really super passionate about the customer first and getting things done beautifully as their tagline is. And that kind of instilled that need that we're here to solve customer problems, and the way you manifest that is through engineering. So I think that is a key thing, is like looking at either you're going to a job for learning, or I say learning or earning. Right. So I really look at the manager you're going to be working with, because that's going to be quite influential in your career growth. That's been for my experience, is like, am I going to be able to learn from this person? Look at the peer group around. And I think those things are going to be, so those pivotal moments are like, I have been quite, blessed or fortunate enough to work in these companies where they've had these large scale engineering practices, like if you look at Seek or Zero, where they have been able to, help shape the way I think. I think the other pivotal moment, I think, yes, bit about that, right? I think don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone. Like I've been working quite a lot in like large software companies, but then me stepping out into like a startup like Mr. Yum, that was a big thing outside of my comfort zone. I was leading something that I hadn't really done specifically. That was another big step out, right? So probably if I was looking at those, is just look for those opportunities in your career. Keep an open mind with those things coming forward. But that's what I'd probably mention.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the last question.
Yeah.
Which is, how do you approach challenges and setbacks in your professional life, and what's your go-to strategy for overcoming them?
I think I've had a lot of setbacks, as much as people would not be obvious to see that. I think for me, how I tackle it is I really kind of tackle it the same way I do like software development, because that's my mindset. I'd have a PIR or post-incident review kind of a thing, for myself, and do an assessment and look at, okay, why did this happen? What's the root cause? And then come up, like it's very, very engineering-esque, like to look at, okay, root cause analysis and then look at what went wrong, right? And then try to get to the bottom of it. But no, I think the key thing there for me is just having a mentor, like along these sides. Like I've made sure I've had somebody I look up to, where I feel like that's a career path I'd like to get onto, whether it's on the technical side or whether it could be on the more managerial leadership side, is having someone you could confide it to. As a friend, you could explicitly say, could you help me be my mentor? But also it could just be a friend that you could talk to at a regular basis. Kind of someone that you can hopefully be mutually beneficial, but like you can hold yourself accountable, right? So you can say, I'm having this issue, or how would you go about doing this? And then coming up with a plan. I think that's probably what I do, is like, okay, this is work out, okay, have a plan, let's try and experiment a certain way, figure out, and then have that iterative mindset. Again, a lot of these engineering principles, like I apply it to my day-to-day life as well. So that's probably that's currently how I tackle and try to be a bit more resilient when no doubt you're going to have that in your career, setbacks or things that happen, but like people are there to help you. Get one thing I try to do is just reach out to my peers, not only my managers, for feedback, right? I don't see, like, I just go talk to a peer, or one of the other things you could do is just get feedback. How do other people perceive you? They might be like, you might think you're coming across in a certain way, but that you might not have that, this perception or how people do it. So one of the things I've done is just send out a form for people to fill. Like, this is what I'd like to get on. Just give me a rating. What do you think? What do you think I'm great at? What I'm not great at? What's one thing I could do? And it's just very lightweight. Could be that's an option. Another option is just have a buddy at work that you just work with and have that. So what I say is, like, your manager shouldn't really be the only person you're going for mentorship for. Quite often they don't have the time. They don't, amongst the other things. And if that's the only place, you're probably missing out on a lot. So I would encourage you to have not your peer group, but also could be outside industry, right? So that's a great option.